Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be discussing a recent coach who made headlines in 2020. Maggie Haney was a USAG coach at MG Elite, New Jersey. She is known for coaching numerous NCAA athletes, as well as coaching 2016 Olympic gold medalist Lori Hernandez and 2020 Olympic hopeful Riley McCusker. Maggie Haney was under recent allegations in the late 2010s and was reported to USAG and Safe Sport in 2019. In February of 2020, Haney was suspended by USA Gymnastics for 8 years after a hearing panel had found that she had violated the organization's Safe Sport policy, Code of Ethical Conduct, and other policies. USAG stated that Haney failed to provide a safe, positive, and healthy environment with a culture of trust and empowerment. Today, we will be discussing a detailed timeline of Maggie Haney's career as a coach and what her status is today. So, without further ado, I bring to you the rise and fall of MG Elite. And before I begin, please know that I tried my best on this research, but that a date may not be 100% correct. It's really hard to get precise information when numerous people and publishers cover the same stories, but with different things. Now then, on to our story. We will begin our timeline in 1980, when Maggie Haney began gymnastics at the age of 3. During her training, she claims to have worked under harsh coaches who screamed at girls. Coaches were forced to make gymnasts stand on a scale daily and listed everyone's weight on a bulletin board. To make girls lose weight, the coaches forced girls to wear rubber suits or 20-pound belts and jog around the gym. In 1997, Maggie Haney got a scholarship and a very successful NCAA career at North Carolina University. In 2006, Lori Hernandez began gymnastics. In 2006, Jasmine, or Jazzy, also began gymnastics. 2007, Maggie Haney began to coach at MG Elite. In 2007, Olivia Greaves began gymnastics. In 2008, Riley McCusker began gymnastics. In 2009, Zoe Greaves began gymnastics. In 2010, Victoria Levine began coaching at MG Elite. In 2013, Olivia Greaves began to train with Maggie Haney. In 2013, Lori Hernandez made the national team. In 2014, Maggie Haney forced Lori Hernandez to train on a dislocated kneecap and a fractured wrist. Haney regularly accused Hernandez of making a big deal of her injuries. Lori is sidelined most of the season as a result. In 2014, Jazzy makes the national team. In 2016, anonymous complaints began to be reported to USAG, but nothing is done. These threats and allegations include emotional abuse and poor eating habits. In 2016, Riley McCusker made the national team. In the summer of 2016, Emily Liszewski suffered from the worst injury in MG Elite history. It was a few weeks before the U.S. Championships, and Maggie Haney wanted Emily to add a new trick to her uneven bar routine. The gymnast balked. She had not attempted the skill for months. She was afraid and exhausted, but Haney demanded the gymnast to do the skill. The gymnast continued to hesitate, and Haney began to ridicule the girl in front of other gymnasts, according to the girl's mother. Victoria Levine, Haney's assistant at MG Elite, started screaming at the girl, the mother said. Emily asked the coaches to spot her, and they would not, Levine citing a recent medical procedure that she had undergone. The gymnast tried the trick and fell, hitting her head on the equipment and then again on exposed cement before landing in a foam pit. Haney and Levine laughed at Emily in the pit until they realized that she was having seizures. Emily had suffered 2 skull fractures, and her mother arrived at the hospital to find a chaplain near her daughter's unconscious and lifeless body. "I thought she was dead," recalled the mother, who spoke on the condition. Emily stayed unconscious for 3 days, and to this day still struggles with migraine headaches. At the 2016 Olympics, Lori competed with a torn abdominal muscle. She does not compete all events because of the injury, and ends up receiving a silver on the balance beam. In the fall of 2016, and shortly after the Olympics, Lori's mother reports Haney's abuse on Lori to USAG shortly after Lori goes into retirement from gymnastics. She filed a complaint to USAG's Rhonda Fain after hearing a friend state that she was being inappropriately touched and grabbed by Haney. Wanda Hernandez demands that she stay away from Lori, and it is told that 2 complaints were seen by Steve Penny, but that he never contacted Wanda Hernandez after viewing them. In December of 2016, Wanda Hernandez, Lori Hernandez, and Rhonda Fain participated in a phone call regarding the abuse that Lori faced. Rhonda states that she shared the information with Steve Penny. At the 2017 American Cup, Riley struggled at the meet, falling on bars, as Haney stands next to her with no spot. Lori is interviewed at the meet during retirement, and there are no interviews with both Haney and Hernandez together. There is no video of the 2 standing nor talking together on the competition floor. It is at this meet that Rhonda Fain states she witnessed Haney giving Lori a hug during the event. This confuses Rhonda, since Wanda requested that Haney stay away from Lori Hernandez. In 2017, anonymous complaints continued to be reported to USAG with nothing being done. These complaints include discussion of numerous injuries on gymnasts. In the spring of 2017, Riley McCusker is forced to train on an injured wrist, injured hamstring, and fractured ischium. This is months leading up to Worlds. In September of 2017, Lori Hernandez's father sends an email to Rhonda Fain stating that Haney was continuing to contact Lori, though she requested Haney not to a year ago. Safe Sport told Rhonda to request Wanda Hernandez file a report since Maggie continued to drive to the Hernandez residence, dropping off fan mail that had been sent to the gym. Although Rhonda did not get to see what Wanda had stated in the report, Rhonda did say that Maggie was sent a warning letter from USAG. In May of 2018, Rhonda Fain resigns from her position. In 2018, McCusker is forced to train on a fractured foot. Olivia Greaves also makes a junior national team. In the spring of 2018, Skylar Curcio and Zoe Gravier finished their gymnastics season with MG Elite. They both transferred to First State for the 2019 season. In 2018, Lori Hernandez returns to gymnastics, but moves to train at Gym Max in California, not returning to MG Elite. She does not discuss why she left to the public. During the fall of 2018, in one practice, Haney screamed so loudly in McCusker's ear during a skill that it caused McCusker to fall off the beam. This resulted in injury, and she was barely healthy enough to qualify for Worlds. In March of 2019, at FIG, Haney belittled McCusker for a poor performance on vault. Although finishing with high scores on 3 events, her poor vault score placed her at second all around, with Mustafina placing first in front of her. A British gymnastics official told a member of the U.S. party that Haney should never be able to coach again after hearing what Haney had said to McCusker. In the spring of 2019, Riley McCusker's mother, Jessica, began to complain about Haney to 3 USAG officials that include Mark Busby, Tom Forster, and Annie Hefferon. Jessica recommended Mark Busby interview former MG Elite families. As a result, a dozen families sent complaints to Busby. In June of 2019, Riley is diagnosed with exercise-induced rhabdomyolysis caused by overtraining. It is not made public. During the spring and summer of 2019, McCusker is forced to compete at Pan Am's and U.S. Classics with rhabdo. It is still not known to the public that McCusker has rhabdo. In the summer of 2019, at national camps, McCusker's parents state that Forster, quote, saved Riley from Haney by intervening during interactions with Haney. In the same year and same time, Forster posted positive things about Haney on social media, stating that she is a really good coach. During the summer of 2019, Riley competed at U.S. Classics with rhabdo. In August of 2019, Riley McCusker was pulled out of U.S. championships for unknown reasons. In August of 2019, rumors slowly surfaced that Maggie Haney is under investigation by USAG and Safe Sport. In September of 2019, Riley McCusker is pulled out of the World Selection Camp and World Championships because of rhabdo. This is a serious condition, and although Riley had a mild case, this can lead to renal failure if untreated. Tensions begin to build between Haney and McCusker's family when Haney finds out that USAG investigation may have been filed by the McCuskers. In January of 2020, Maggie Haney is temporarily suspended by USAG and is not allowed to coach or be alone with minors in a room. COVID and other factors delay a court panel. She is not allowed to coach Olivia Greaves or Riley McCusker, who were her current national team gymnasts. This makes public news when people find out it's conducted through USAG and not through Safe Sport. Cases in the past with coaches through USAG have primarily been related to sexual abuse and not physical or emotional abuse. This was a really big deal. In January of 2020, after numerous threats that Haley would kill herself if Riley left, Riley McCusker finally leaves MG Elite and goes to Arizona Sunrays to trade with Jade. Riley states that I'm so excited to be training alongside with Jade and the rest of the Arizona Sunrays team. On February 3rd of 2020, a court hearing is finally conducted regarding Maggie Haney's abuse. The hearing lasts 13 days and over a 2-month period, starting in February and ending in March. The hearing was done through a form of texts, emails, letters, and public speaking by gymnasts, families, and athletes. Lori Hernandez physically testifies, while Riley McCusker testifies in a written statement. The allegations state that Haney screamed, sworn at, threatened, bullied, and harassed gymnasts. She is also told that injured gymnasts to remove boot casts and to continue training and competing. The panel evaluated evidence from over 5 of Haney's athletes, stating that she engaged in severe, aggressive behavior towards gymnasts. Parents leave the trial with mixed emotions. Mary Jo Greaves is one parent who is disappointed and blames this on absentee parents and attention seekers. Wanda Hernandez leaves hopeful for a change in the future, while Lori leaves guilty, wondering if it was the right thing to do by testing against her longtime coach. In March of 2020, after delayed months, Maggie Haney is officially suspended for 8 years from USAG. Victoria Levine is also suspended by USAG due to allegations that she was verbally abusive. Haney is prohibited from contacting any of the accusers and cannot attend USAG events other than the company or watch her daughter compete. Haney planned to appeal the ruling and that the hearing process was fundamentally flawed on a multitude of ways. She denies that claims like Hernandez's happened. She states it never happened and was furious that people like her spoke up against her. The ruling leaves parents and gymnasts both happy and furious. In May of 2020, Laura admits in a New York Times article that she was gaslighted and abused by Maggie Haney. Lori said that she considered it possible that many coaches publicly berated their gymnasts in gaining weight. She had become convinced that was how Olympians were made. When she had complained about the mistreatment, her coach would tell her to stop taking things so personally. And then Hernandez would end up apologizing for causing any trouble. Lori stated, after being at GymX for 2 years, that she was doing much better mentally since leaving MG Elite. In May of 2020, more parents became public about Coach Haney's abuse after being banned for 8 years. Parents state that gymnasts were pulled by their hair, called retarded, and that Haney would threaten to kill herself if a top gymnast left the program. Gymnasts would be regularly kicked out of the gym and scared to tell their parents about the harsh treatment and fear of retaliation by Haney. It is in this article that the news breaks out about Emily, who suffered from seizures and skull fractures. The report is made anonymous, and people don't know who the gymnast is that fell in this tragedy. In October of 2020, Maggie Haney and Victoria are sued by Emily Liszewski. It is announced that indeed Emily Liszewski is the gymnast who suffered seizures and skull fractures at MG Elite. She sues them for injuries, and she states that there was a lack of safety protocols, including a lack of proper padding in the facilities and failure to ensure concrete surfaces were covered by padding. They failed to conduct reasonable inspections and to ensure that areas were properly matted. She states that coaches mocked her when she signed for NCAA because Pittsburgh was a low-rated school and not a top NCAA school. She also states that Haney would pull her hair, resulting in assault and battery. November 2020. Maggie Haney speaks out against allegations after being banned for 8 years. Months later, she states, "I think my mistake was that I cared too much. I wanted them to be a little too perfect every day, when maybe that's not possible. More than 30 gymnasts at MG Elite are waiting for me to return to the sport. They all support me." She claimed that although she could be intense, everybody is smiling, laughing, and music's playing in the gym. These allegations that the gymnasts have made are not at all what I recall them. She says that 6 parents wanted to speak on her behalf, but were not given the chance to at the trial. In November of 2020, Riley McCusker sues Maggie Haney over the abuse for practicing a culture of unsafe training conditions at Monmouth Gymnastics Academy. This led her to developing rhabdo. She also states that coaches discouraged girls from getting their periods and body shamed them regularly who would get a period. She states that Haney failed to spot or physically support gymnasts when requesting help during a skill, and that they also promoted unhealthy weight loss habits. In December of 2020, the Skating Lessons YouTube channel released the Maggie Diaries. This video had exclusive details that parents shared regarding allegations that were originally anonymous. Some identities became public, like Emily Liszewski's case, and others shared new information but did not want to be released due to fear of retaliation. Still, parents spoke up about the emotional abuse that gymnasts faced at meets and practices. This included girls being threatened to lose scholarships from colleges if they were to leave MG Elite. It also said that some athletes and coaches cyberbullied them if they refused to listen to Haney. This includes girls being threatened to lose scholarships from colleges if they were to leave MG Elite, and resulting in athletes and coaches cyberbullying them if refusing to listen to Haney. In December of 2020, Maggie gets a reduced suspension from USAG for 5 years instead of 8. USAG states that some of the evidence presented at the trial was improperly used on Haney. March 2021. Maggie Haney sues USAG. Haney in her lawsuit claims that the claims Hernandez and McCusker made were false. She alleges that Hernandez's mother fabricated the claims to avoid paying Haney after the Olympics. And she also blames some of McCusker's eating habits and stress on her mother and not herself. Now, on to current day, August 2021. I did a little bit of research to see what is going on with MG Elite. When I did research, I found that Maggie is not listed on MG Elite's website, and in fact, the website is currently down for registration. What's weird is that the website does not provide any tabs about past athletes, a history of the gym, past meets, and it doesn't provide any upcoming events. It's only one page, there's nothing else you can click. When I called MG Elite, it took me directly to a Monmouth-only voicemail. There was no description of MG Elite, and they are not recognized under Monmouth's homepage. Her and Victoria are also not listed in staff under Monmouth's website. So as you can see, Haney's career was very successful, but it was also very toxic. And she seems to share a lot of patterns in the way that she coaches. Her gym is known for producing long lines on beam and exquisite bar work. But she also holds a history of verbal, emotional, and physical abuse. The Skating Lessons stated in a video that a handbook showed right and red Parents are not allowed to stay and watch practices. There are no exceptions. When observing the culture of the gym, I started to see a pattern in her gym that I saw in Everest. And that is that Everest always had closed practices, and parents were always scared to speak up when they were told by the gymnast about the abuse they endured. It seems to be a common problem in the sport, and it's definitely something that needs to change. And seeing Zoe Gravier's lack of confidence in interviews is truly heartbreaking. To know how many injuries Riley McCusker faced is upsetting. I truly hope that Riley is doing better now that she's at Arizona Sunrays, because these girls do not deserve the constant ridicule that they were faced with. It's also upsetting to hear that Emily and other gymnasts like Lori were rejected spot when they needed it. I understand if Levine's medical history didn't allow her to at the time, but Haney should have stepped in and spotted Emily. I can't guarantee that the injury would have been prevented had Haney helped Emily, but there is a chance that Emily may not have been injured had Haney stepped in and spotted her. There is a culture shift in this sport, and that's why I'm so passionate about this channel. And I'm glad to see that McCusker's mother did the right thing of speaking up, even if this meant that Riley may have to get a new coach before the trials. But in my overall opinion, I think that the rise of MG Elite has resulted in the fall and potential closure of MG Elite.